Let's get ready to rumble!
Duran didn't have much of an amateur career. His career as an amateur is said to be about 16 fights, possibly 13 victories, 3 defeats. He turned pro at 16 years of age. After racking up 21 consecutive wins undefeated, Duran's contract was bought out for a mere $300. Carlos Eleta bought the contract out, and he hired Ray Arcel and Freddie Brown to streamline Duran's relentless style and teach him defense. 29-0 when he took on Ken Buchanan for the WBA lightweight title in 1972, 11 months before Hagler, Leonard, Pryor participated in the Golden Gloves tournament in Boston. In the 13th round, Duran landed a low blow that incapacitated Ken Buchanan and ruptured his testicle, which up to 30 years after that event, Buchanan said he still suffered discomfort from the testicle when he peed. Leonard had weighed 100 pounds soaking wet the day he walked into the Palmer Park Rec Center. A year later, he added 25 pounds, virtually all of it muscle. And in 1971, the 15-year-old Leonard soundly defeated Bobby Magruder, generally regarded to have been the Washington's best amateur featherweight. Dave Jacobs, who ran the rec center, realized he might have something special on his hands. By 1972, Leonard was dominating the metropolitan Washington boxing scene, and it was time to move to the national stage. Emanuel Stewart recalled the first time he saw Leonard was in 1972 at the Eastern Olympic Trials in Cincinnati. He was just a baby-faced little kid, and he fought a much older guy, Greg Wally, in the semi-final. Wally was a real strong fighter and was favored to win the trials and go on to Munich, the Olympic Games, later that year. Wally also was fighting on his home turf, Cincinnati. But Ray put on such a show that everyone was saying, where did this little kid come from? They gave the decision to the other guy, but Ray had beat Wally up so bad he couldn't fight the next night. Greg Wally didn't go to the Olympics. In fact, he never boxed again. It turned out that Ray had lied about his age, and even if he had won, they couldn't have let him go, said Stewart. He was barely 16 years old. Boxers were required to be 17 to box in all international senior competitions, not just the Olympics. But this didn't stop Leonard from representing his country in 2 pre-Olympic meets against a team from the USSR in Las Vegas that summer. When Rolly Schwartz asked Leonard how old he was, the boy smiled sweetly and said, 17, sir. Schwartz, the chairman of AAU Boxing, only had to take one look at Ray to know that he wasn't. But he allowed him to fight anyway. Leonard said that Schwartz knew he was underage, but he also knew I could hold my own with pretty much anyone. Leonard always had them hands. Say what you want about Leonard, he always had them hands. The truth of the matter, said Schwartz, is that he was already the best amateur lightweight in the United States. At the first meet, Leonard knocked out his Soviet opponent with the first punch he threw, a left hook to the face. In the next, Valery Lov, spelled L-O-V, knocked Leonard down in the first when the Russian caught him with his guard down. Leonard looked up and saw Joe Louis and Red Fox seated together laughing at him. Furious and embarrassed, he climbed to his feet and stopped low in the 3rd round. Emanuel Stewart recalled that he had a heavyweight named Johnny Hudson in the 73 Golden Gloves Championship. Hudson was victorious, winning the Golden Gloves that year. He said he had seen Leonard box the previous year, but Lowell was the first time he actually met him. Dave Jacobs came to me and asked for some help. He was afraid that Ray was going to be overweight for his final match. Nearly 17 years of age, Leonard was still growing and was struggling to make weight for what would be his last bout at 132 pounds. Stewart and Jacobs used tape to seal the bathroom door in the motel and turning the hot water on full blast, converted it into a makeshift steam room. That half an hour's worth of exercise helped Leonard shed the requisite 2 pounds with minutes to spare. Leonard said it felt like it took forever. Leonard won the Golden Gloves by outpointing Hilmer Kenty, Emanuel Stewart's first professional world champion. Kenty came from Columbus, Ohio. It was a close decision, Hagler lost to an opponent named Del Grant in the middleweight final. At the time, Stewart was guiding a 14-year-old prospect, who he said was his brightest prospect, Thomas Hearns, who at the time was at home in Detroit, not competing in the Golden Gloves. Stewart became very acquainted with Hagler and Ray, and even though later, as professionals, they would fight each other in some of the most memorable battles in boxing history, Stewart maintains that he always had a close relationship with them. It was like we all kind of grew up together. None of Stewart's boxers qualified for the AAU championships 2 months later, but he attended as a spectator. Leonard was now a light welterweight. We already covered that he was outpointed by Randy Shields in this tournament, and Hagler won the middleweight title in 165. After the disappointment of the 1972 Olympics at Munich, where Sugar Ray Seales was the only US fighter to return home with a gold medal, Rollie Schwartz had been given a brief to revamp amateur boxing in the hope of restoring American dominance in the sport of boxing. Schwartz arranged a heavy schedule of international competitions over the next 2 years, leading up to the 76 Olympics, but took care never to show the rest of the world a full-strength American squad. Leonard won both the gloves and the AAU titles in 1974, and was on the US team that boxed in Eastern Europe that summer. On that trip, Leonard incurred that it would go into the books as the final 2 losses of his 150-bout amateur career. In Moscow, he dominated Anatoly Karnev, only to have the judges award the verdict to the Russian champion. When the decision was announced, the pre-Glasnost crowd erupted into a chorus of whistles and jeers. Karnev appeared to share their sentiment. He walked across the ring and presented Ray with the trophy that he had just won. In Warsaw, a few days later, Leonard floored Kazimierz Scherber. 3 times he dropped him in the final round, the last for good. But after Scherber had been counted out, the Polish referee ruled that the knockout punch had been delivered after the bell had sounded, and disqualified Leonard. Outrageous. Scherber had to be propped up in the ring to receive his medal. Ray Leonard was fantastic, said Emanuel Stewart. He was more exciting than anyone I had ever seen. Early in 1976, he came to Detroit and trained at the Kronk Gym for several days. The kids called him Superbad and pretty much adopted him. During the Olympics, the Kronk looked like a Ray Leonard shrine. There were pictures of Ray all over our gym. Leonard represented as AAU champion in 1975 and then went to Mexico City, where he won the light welterweight gold medal at the Pan American Games. By then, the secret was out. When asked by ABC boss Roone Arledge which American athletes were worth watching at the upcoming Montreal Games, Howard Cosell predicted that Sugar Ray Leonard would be the Olga Korbut of the 1976 Olympics. For those who don't know, Olga Korbut was an outstanding Eastern European female gymnast. A very young, diminutive Russian gymnast in the 70s. Leonard, enormously talented, but his other attributes made him even more appealing to the network. He was telegenic, articulate, with a ready smile that exuded charisma. All the attention I was receiving was new to me, but honestly, I didn't mind it, said Leonard. When I was 16, someone interviewing me asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I think he expected me to say a champion or something like that, but I said I want to be special. And in Montreal, that's exactly how I felt, special. ABC televised all 6 of Leonard's Olympic matches, in which he defeated a Swedish fighter, Ulf Karlsson, a Russian, Valery Limasov, a Briton named Clinton McKenzie, who I know very well, an East German, Ulrich Bayer, and a Pole, his old friend, Kazimierz Scherber, on his way to the final, where he would face the formidable Cuban, Andres Aldama. ABC's showcasing of Leonard added to the pressure. Sports editors watching on TV back home were on their horn to their Olympic correspondents, demanding that they join the Leonard bandwagon. As the week wore on, each time he ventured out of the Olympic Village, Leonard was trailed by an ever-growing pack of reporters, each searching for some tidbit of information that the TV viewers didn't know already. By the time he squared off with Aldama, most of America was aware that Leonard would be boxing with a photo of his high school sweetheart, Juanita Wilkinson, tucked into his boot for inspiration. People seem to think it was about image, but it wasn't, said Leonard. It was just scoring brownie points with my girlfriend. I did it for Juanita, that's all. If anyone had bothered to ask, Leonard might also have revealed that Juanita was the mother of Little Ray, his 2-year-old son. US boxing coach Pat Nappy told Baltimore columnist Bob Mazel that Sugar Ray Leonard is the best amateur I've ever seen, and that includes Muhammad Ali. Aldama had stopped all 4 of his preliminary opponents leading up to the final, but Leonard handed him a pair of standing 8 counts in the last round, handily winning the fight 5-0 on points and the gold medal. All of his wins had come via decision.